Well, after weeks of back and forths at the beginning of the year, there had been some hope over the past couple of weeks or so that Donald Trump could walk back some of his most extreme tariff threats, especially after that surprise truce was struck with China. Well, the U.S. president brought his threats back yet again Friday, saying on his Truth Social platform that he's recommending a 50% tariff on the European Union starting from June the 1st. And this because trade talks with the bloc have stagnated, according to Donald Trump. For more, we're going to cross now to our Washington correspondent, Fraser Jackson. So, hi, Fraser, what bone does the U.S. president have to pick now with the EU, at least this time around?
Well, from talking to sources, I understand it that the U.S. administration was trying to talk to different countries individually about certain aspects of tariffs that they could bring forward. That was effectively kiboshed by the European Union, who said that all discussions had to be done at the Brussels level, and that is what's been therefore going on for the last few months. And this clearly has led to some sort of frustration with the administration. Donald Trump, in the early hours of Friday morning, taking to Truth Social once again to lambast the European Union. He says once again that it was formed for the primary purpose of taking advantage of the United States on trade, has been very difficult to deal with. He says there are powerful trade barriers, VAT taxes, ridiculous corporate penalties, non-monetary trade barriers, monetary manipulations, unfair and unjustified lawsuits against American companies, and more have led to a trade deficit with the US of more than $250 billion a year, a number which is totally unacceptable. I should say as well, it's a number that is slightly overinflated. It is about $230 billion, the trade deficit that the US has with the EU. But Trump continues, our discussions with them are going nowhere. Therefore, I'm recommending a straight 50% tariff on the EU starting on June the 1st. There is no tariff if the product is built or manufactured in the US. So that therefore representing an increase of 20% even on the number from what has been currently implicated, put on China at the moment. So it would mean it would be a significant tariff for EU products. And it is a key partner for the EU as well. Last year, there was $975 billion worth of trade between the two. Like I said, that deficit from the US, about $235 billion, and most EU exports to the US were pharmaceuticals, machinery, and vehicles. But like I said as well, there is a bit of a bee in the bonnet here from Donald Trump. He's lashed out at the European Union numerous times. The EU Council on Foreign Relations says that he has a negative view of the EU because of its big trade surplus with America, but also because of the EU's size and economic power, which makes it a tough negotiator. And also, like we saw in that tweet, because it tends to fine American companies as well, many of which, of course, are owned by his friends. Donald Trump also sees the EU as a bastion of liberal democratic values. Trump would call them probably woke ideology, and this, of course, are the things that he's been trying to actively strip out of the US government since he retook office. But on a more personal level as well, we also saw a quick example as to why he has such a negative view of the EU when he met with the Irish leader inside the Oval Office, because he wrongly believes that it prevented him from developing his golf course in Ireland, as he said, like I said, inside the Oval Office. So that red tape also one of the negative things that Donald Trump sees about the EU.
For now, Fraser, the EU Commission has declined to comment on the threat. They say that's pending a phone call between the bloc trade chief and his counterpart in Washington, set to take place later today. So what reaction do you expect to potentially see from Europe?
Well, the Europeans have been quite tight-lipped around this. Even when you try to work many different angles, they're all kind of trying to keep a united front. I talked to one senior source inside of Brussels, and yes, they said that Maros Sefcovic, the Commissioner for Trade, will be having a phone call today with the US Trade Representative Greer. Now, this source stresses that this call was planned before this recent announcement by Donald Trump. But of course, that call will now have a significant amount of it wrapped around this tweet and this threat now of this 50% tariff. But otherwise, the EU is remaining somewhat tight-lipped. Again, even on the kind of country-specific level, they're trying to maintain that united front. But the EU will likely form ranks and create a solid front against this as well. They are aware that the US, there's a lot of business dealings with the EU. The EU is a key partner. And of course, at the end of the day, many economists agree that tariffs actually end up being borne by the end consumer. So the cost of these kind of imports that are going to be now hit with this 50% tariff here in the United States will ultimately probably end up getting passed on to the end consumer, and the EU will be hoping that the end results will be somewhat negative for Donald Trump, and that therefore will cause him to back off from this higher tariff line of 50%.
That trade saga continues then. Fraser Jackson in Washington, thank you.